You are listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. I'm Kyle Bryant.
And I'm Sean Baumsart. Together, we're navigating life with disability. All right, here we are. Welcome to episode 28. This one is a one-of-a-kind for Kyle and I. If you listen to episode 26, we were both inspired by a guest we had on a previous episode and a book that Kyle has talked about reading. We decided to raise the standard in our own lives and improve our self-discipline. So, inspired by a couple different things or a couple different elements, Kyle and I decided to challenge each other in two different areas. Number one, to complete 100 push-ups a day for 30 days, and then also to log everything we choose to eat over the course of the same 30 days. So right now, we're going to spend this episode checking in on each other and seeing how we're doing there. So Kyle, are you ready to fill us in on where you're at with these challenges?
Yeah, dude. Well, my push-ups have been going pretty good. I am actually kind of enjoying them. The second day was the hardest. The second and third, I was super sore. But I feel like by the fourth and fifth day, they started getting easier. And I totally have a strategy now. Like, I'll get up and do like 20 right when I get up to kind of get a little jump start. One day, I waited till like 5:30 p.m. and I was starting at 1.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, so that was a little tough. But, I mean, it's not too bad if you kind of stay on top of it.
Yeah, you definitely got to break it down and do the chunks throughout the day. I've had a couple of days where I didn't really start until lunchtime or toward the end of my workday, and like you, starting at 5, 100 is so daunting when it's that late in the day, and then you get tired and all you want to do is go to sleep, and you're like, no, I still have 25 left or whatever it may be. So yeah, like I've enjoyed the challenge to an extent. I don't enjoy doing it, honestly.
Yeah, that's true.
What I enjoy is the accomplishment. So that part has been pretty cool to know, we're doing it, I'm doing it, and before I get in bed, I can actually say, yep, I can check that off my list.
Yeah, and that's what self-discipline is about, right? Like,
Totally.
We all know it's going to feel good when we're done, but it's a matter of doing it, and I feel like that's, exactly what we're trying to accomplish, just an exercise. I guess in more than one sense of the word, an exercise in self-discipline, right?
Totally. It's keeping check on your own motivation, whether you feel like doing it or don't feel like doing it.
So, how many do you usually string together?
I've been doing 25.
Like just 25 without stopping?
Correct.
Dang, dude,
so
you are buff.
The first couple of days, it was 20, but then I saw that it was easier. No, it was harder for me to keep track of how many times did I do 20. Because you start thinking, did I already do 3 times or 4 times? So it's just easier to know, the 4 different. I don't know why. It's just easier to know.
First world problems, dude.
Yeah.
First world problems.
Because I'm not writing it down. I'm just remembering. Okay, I did 4 in my bedroom, or did 1 set in my bedroom, 1 set at work, 1 set in the office.
Yeah.
Okay, I got 1 left, or whatever.
Yeah, I've been updating the spreadsheet periodically throughout the day so I don't forget,
So that's been my biggest struggle, that spreadsheet, and logging on and actually telling the world I've done my part. That's where I haven't been great at actually executing the log.
That's the key. And I really hope that I mean, I can string together like 15. I think I've done 20 as well, but I would love by the end of the month to be able to do like 50 in a row. That'd be so rad.
Totally. Same. Yeah. The goal is to, get to a point where your chunk, or at least for me, my chunk is a lot greater than just 25.
Yeah. So you mentioned struggling with writing stuff down and telling the world about it. What about writing down all your food that you've been eating?
Well, the same. I actually keep an app on my phone that's been really helpful, and I've actually been really good at logging my stuff on there. And my streak is like 60 some odd days already doing it on that. I've started a long time ago. But
Baller.
for whatever reason, I'm not as consistent with accessing, even though I can do it on my phone, accessing the sheet for the website and telling everybody what I ate there. So
yeah,
definitely getting better. But it's, in the beginning, I was a day behind always.
I've really noticed that I've been watching everything, like even that I buy at the store now. I probably shouldn't eat that because I have to write it down and tell everyone,
No, it's a whole nother game when you know that somebody might be looking at, even, I'm sure only a few people are really paying attention to us, but knowing that you are going to read it and maybe some others, you think twice about the extra, piece of sugar or the extra whatever it may be.
Yeah, I ate a cupcake the very first day. Somebody had a birthday in the office, and happy birthday, by the way. But I ate a cupcake, and then afterwards I was like, oh shoot, I forgot. I have to write this down. I shouldn't have eaten that. But yeah,
same. What I like about the app that I've been working with is, when you start rethinking what you're eating, you, like I said, you think twice about the cupcake or whatever it may be. But then what I like about the app on the phone is it actually tracks your protein, your fats, your carbs, your iron, all those different elements. And when you start looking at that stuff, you begin to realize what you're eating it's actually healthy, or what you're eating that, or what you're lacking. So I realized in the first week or so, I really wasn't consuming enough protein. So I had to correct that. And I wouldn't know that just by logging what I eat. It was the help of the app that actually breaks down the nutrient value of what you're eating that helps you get on track with eating more correctly, or whatever the phrase or wording may be.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, yeah, I'm writing it all down, but what does it mean unless you can analyze it or something, right? And
sure.
So how accurate do you think that app is as far as actual calories when you're consuming some random thing that may or may not be exactly what they're talking about in the words on the app? Do you know what I mean?
So, yeah, but honestly, I think it's 98% accurate. And I say that because it's Under Armour's app, and they've got millions of barcodes on there.
Oh.
And in the app, you can take a picture of the barcode, and it literally knows everything the manufacturer lists on that, on the, what do you call that?
The nutrition facts.
Yeah, the nutrition facts. Thank you. Where it breaks down calories per serving and fat and sugar and all that stuff, the ingredients. So it actually knows all that. So as long as the data is accurate from the manufacturer, Under Armour, the app knows, okay, you're about to eat 14 Triscuits, which is 187 calories or whatever it may be.
What about a sandwich though?
So yeah, the only time where it gets maybe a little tricky is if you're doing something homemade, you can lean on the barcode of your ingredient if you haven't, and then you kind of have to break down the serving or the amount that you're using. So in a lot of my meals, I'm a creature of habit, and I don't get super creative in the kitchen. So I'll find a meal that I like and actually repeat it often. Like, I don't need a lot of variety with my food. I am happy with burgers, fries, and pizza. Or chicken. Like, I ate a lot of chicken.
Sounds really healthy.
Yeah,
So
right.
do you find yourself like choosing a meal because the app knows what it is?
No, no, but I definitely, you can create your own, not recipe, but like create your own meal. And even in that, I'm able to take a picture of the barcode of that pasta or that pasta sauce or that whatever, and I just have to portion down what I'm actually using in that particular dish, and then I can repeat that dish every time I eat it. So I don't know if that's making sense, but I do believe it's actually pretty accurate. Where it gets another area where it gets tricky is if you're out at a restaurant and you don't really know exactly what everything is worth in terms of calorie. Yeah. So you kind of have to guesstimate when you're at a smaller restaurant, but it actually knows menu items for a lot of your larger chains. So you can actually go in and be like, hey, I'm at Chili's and I'm about to eat this dish. Yeah. And it knows exactly what's in that dish.
Nice. So our last challenge stems from something Drew Dudley was talking about a couple of episodes ago. When Drew turned 38, he wrote down a list of the top 38 things he learned in the last 38 years. So inspired by that challenge, we challenge each other to write down 5 things.
Yeah, five whole things.
We scaled down a little bit. So, Sean,
that's not entirely true. We committed to talking about 5 things.
Uh-huh.
I mean, my list currently that I have written down is 7.
Oh, dang, dude.
But
that's
we only
good.
committed to talking about 5. And Drew encouraged us to write down 2 things. I think he said 2 things a day. Or maybe it's 1. Just begin a list. You don't have to bang it all out at once.
When we're coming up on this right now, it came down to it, and I was like the past 2 days I was thinking about, I was like, oh no, I have to think of 5 things. And, it gets you, like, just randomly, your mind will drift to that, right? And so just having it in mind, I'll be like, oh, that's a good one. I'm going to write that down. So just thinking about it all the time has helped me, sort of define my list a little bit, even though it's only 5. But
yeah, for sure. So,
and you know what, Sean? I have to admit that at this very moment, my list is 4, but it will be 5. But
it'll be 5 by the time we get to that number.
Yeah.
Well, in light of, beginning to think about these things and write them down, I had a thought the other day. I feel like the pressure is heavy. You got to write down 30 things that sound cool or that are legit. But part of me is like, man, just write down everything. If you get 100, then narrow it down to your top 30. I'm starting to write down some silly things like, I've learned not to leave the air conditioner on all day when you're not home because that's a waste of money and energy.
Oh, really? Oh my gosh, that's so incredibly insightful.
Yeah, and had I not done that once or twice, I may not have learned my lesson.
Oh, I've got a good one. Always hit record when you're recording a podcast with a very important guest.
Yeah, that's a good one. Write that down. You're going to want to remember that.
All right.
That's funny. So I've written down a couple. This is not one of them, but I feel like maybe it is one that I should add. I've learned that if you get upset at people or things, you shouldn't verbalize your frustration if there's a camera crew in the parking lot.
Oh yeah. How'd you learn that?
Oh, there's this film that 1 million people have seen, and it features that scene where I get a little
But Sean,
frustrated.
if you think about it objectively, though, that scene provides the climax for the entire film. Like,
Yeah,
it's
that's true.
so valuable. So, I mean, maybe the lesson is actually the opposite of what you said. Always verbalize your frustration.
Always. Get that on camera. That's funny. Okay, on a serious note, do you want me to start? That'll give you time to come up with your fifth.
Yeah, you go ahead. You start with the first one.
Okay, so something I wrote down. And these, I feel like these are all things people are going to say, yep, I agree. There's nothing earth-shattering here. But number one, the biggest thing I've learned, especially since being diagnosed with FA and, a little bit of my personal life story before getting super involved in Infera or with Friedreich's ataxia stuff, my attitude and my response are my choice. I think that's true across the board, whether it's related to a disease or a condition or finances or a broken marriage or an addiction or whatever it may be. Your response and your attitude towards things or people or circumstances, it's all your choice. It's all my choice.
Yep, I agree. And that oftentimes can determine a terrible outcome or a not so bad outcome, right?
Sure.
Like
sure.
it can, a lot of times it can only be worse. But it can be also nothing if you figure out how to, just move forward.
Yep.
Or maybe even better if you figure that out too.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. So my first one that I thought of is one of the most important things is remembering someone's name. Oh my gosh. How good does it feel when someone says your name? And how terrible does it feel when you can't remember someone's name? You're like, I just met you 5 minutes ago and I don't know what your name is.
Yeah, that's
Oh
true.
my God.
That's huge. That's probably gonna be a number like top 5 for interpersonal skills or influencing people.
Yeah, and I don't know any real strategies for that except for just focus and don't forget. I
don't know who or where I've heard it, but I know there are different strategies out there. I don't know them by heart or anything, but I know one thing that helps me. I do a lot of training or onboarding of new associates for my day job. So I'm in front of new hires all the time, and sometimes the group is small or large, and so I gotta try to remember 25 names. And one thing I do to help with that is when somebody tells me their name, I find a way to say it out loud 3 times before that conversation is over.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, oh, Kyle, it's nice to meet you. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Kyle, what do you do for a living? Or, Kyle, what's something you enjoy doing on the weekend? You find a way to say it out loud.
Gosh.
And maybe it'll stick. Maybe it won't.
I notice some of our guests doing that, saying our names occasionally.
That's true.
So maybe, that's a good one. I like it. Nice. All right. Number 2, or the next one for you.
Not all decisions can or should be made based on money. So I'll sort of explain. One of my a manager I've had in the past, I had a great position. It was actually with the same company I'm employed with now. I had an opportunity to take a quote-unquote promotion or at least a change in job assignments. Well, this particular promotion actually cost me a pay decrease. And so I struggled with making the decision, do I go in that direction and take a small pay cut, or do I stay where I'm at? And there are benefits to both, but of course, income is a huge factor. So I was talking to the boss one day, and I'm like, hey, I just don't know. He wanted to know if I'd made a decision. So I said, you know what? I'm actually struggling because if I go that way, I'm going to take home less money. And he said, you know what, Sean, you're absolutely right, and that's a decision you have to make for yourself. But I can tell you that if you go this way, the potential, the growth potential is greater. It far outweighs if you stay where you're at. And then he went on to say, you may suffer a decrease for a short time or maybe a long time. I don't know. But really, you can't make every decision in life based on income. So what if you lose out on 10 or 20 bucks a week? Is life still going to be better? Or will it be, you got to think beyond the money attached to a decision. And to me, I was like, I feel like that's something my dad would say. And I've never forgotten that little piece of advice.
I like it a lot. When I was in the process of trying to figure out what I was going to do, I was working at this really great engineering firm in Sacramento called Brown & Caldwell. I love that place so much, but engineering just was not for me. And my work at FARA really stirred my soul, right? I mean, I felt like I was really doing what I was meant to do. And to make that transition, it was a significant pay cut. Just because, FAIR's nonprofit, our money's going to research. Like, it was just a different industry, right? Like
totally.
Engineering versus nonprofit research funding. So that was a really tough decision for me. But in hindsight, there is no way I would have made the decision differently if I were able to go back now. So anyway, that's exactly what I was thinking when you brought that up. So
that's a good point. All right, number 2 for you.
All right, number 2 is something that I struggle with, mine is define what you want. Like, in order to make a plan, you have to know what the goal is, right? And so
5'10",
defining what
blonde
you want,
hair, blue eyes. Oh no, I'm sorry, you weren't. Oh
yeah, no. Well, sure, that could be part of it.
Okay.
But not only in another person, but in whatever you want in life. A lot of money, a big house, a nice car, to help other people, all that stuff. And I think I know it in the back of my mind, but it's so hard. We were talking about this a couple episodes. It's like so hard to write that stuff down or just be clear about it, right? I think we're talking about it with Drew Dudley, and so it's something I struggle with, but I think it's something that's really important.
I think you're right, and it's so much more than just what you want. But if you know what you want, then maybe you know the steps to get there. And a common question that a really good friend of mine asked me, he's an entrepreneur of sorts, and he's always pursuing growth. When it comes to the nonprofit, the podcast, or different little things that I've been a part of, he always asks, if somebody gave you $1 million right now, what would you do with it? And you've got to be able to answer that question in terms of what do you want and how you're going to get there, and understanding if I had the money, here's how we would execute. And I think that's something every investor or every supporter wants to hear. If I gave you $5,000 or $100 right now, what would you do with it? And if your response is, well, I'm just not sure what I want, so I would leave it in the bank for now and figure it out later, that might not be the best response for a supporter.
I like
That's good. No, I like the way you word that. Is it okay if I share some of these or keep some of these for myself?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean,
So now my list is already at 9 then.
yeah, I think as long as I can keep yours, that would be cool too.
Of course.
All right. So
All
what's
right.
your number 3?
Everyone has value. Everyone has something to contribute. Now, I know to an extent, maybe sometimes it's hard to identify a contribution or value from certain people. But really, I think it's important to understand that every single person has a strength. Everybody, of course, also has a weakness, but everybody brings something to the table, and you gotta find it. And
I agree.
I think it's up to us to find it. It's not up to the person to show off what they're good at or what value they offer. It's up to the people alongside them to identify, wow, this is a strength that I really appreciate or respect.
Yeah, and I think, staying in tune to the people around you will help you identify those things of value to everyone else, right? Like, you say it's up to people around that person to identify what the value is. Well, it's also up to that person to take that into consideration in future actions, right? And figure out what your value is so you can continue to provide it.
And I'm pretty sure I heard you chuckle when I said that because
I know I meant to,
when I originally delivered that sentence several episodes ago, there was a joke attached to it, and that joke didn't end up making it to the make the cut.
I mean, it's not a bad joke. The joke was everybody's got value except Trump. And we tend not to get too political on this show, and hopefully that's not a political statement. It's just kind of a funny joke.
Yeah, it's just somebody that everybody's familiar with, so it's easy to poke fun at that guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, no matter who you are, everybody's got strengths. They just might be buried behind ridiculous tweets that you gotta look beyond. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, let's move on before I get in trouble.
My number 3 is kind of related to my number 2. It's always be on the lookout. I think be prepared for the thing you want. And that's why I say it's related to define what you want. And then that allows you to be on the lookout for it because there's opportunities always coming by, right? But if we're prepared and we know how to recognize that opportunity when it does come by, then we can grab onto it and take it from there. But it starts with being prepared to find that idea, that opportunity.
That's good. I like that.
All right, number 4.
There's always another perspective. There's always another side of the story or somebody else's view. And that's a whole sentence for me. But I often either jump to conclusions or maybe the first thing I hear, I take that as absolute truth. And I forget that there's a whole nother side of the story. Like, I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know the other person's side of the story.
Or the history, like how they grew up even, or like whatever.
Exactly. Or how, their understanding of how the world turns. So I think it's important to remember there's always another perspective, and you should find a way, I should find a way to observe or listen or hear the other side of the story before I come to a point of making a judgment or a decision based on just some of the information.
Yep, I think that's something we can all relate to. We've all done that multiple times in our lives. And
I think about it right now, you and I were both in Florida recently, and we talked about that. In fact, the last publication, episode 27, featured that time. You and I shared a hotel room, and I don't mean to like blame you or anything or point it out, but you.
No, I want to hear this.
You caused some physical damage to the hotel room.
The whole
you literally ripped out the towel rack. Okay, so
I was trying. It didn't belong there. It belonged somewhere else in the room. It was not feng
I
shui.
agree. I agree. It was in a horrible spot. But, you accidentally pulled it out because you leaned on it and you needed it for stability.
Right.
And it came out of the wall. And I think in that case, if somebody were to come into the room, they were cleaning it or they were a maintenance guy, if they're used to always having college kids or whatever, say in the hotel, then they might automatically think, oh, there was a party in here and things got out of hand and people are ripping stuff out of the wall. And so they might think they just don't understand the history. Whereas if they take a moment to find out when the world happened here, maybe they'll realize, oh, okay, this is an ADA issue, and maybe it shouldn't. It was hung poorly, and they might be a little more understanding or a little more gracious about how they fix it or how they address that concern.
Yeah, I saw a post on your Facebook the other day that
totally
was talking exactly about this very issue, right? You were seeing a concert downtown Sacramento. A bouncer made a snap judgment because you were stumbling a little bit and thought you were drunk, and he took your over 21 bracelet away, and didn't even ask you anything, right? Like he didn't have any conversation, he didn't have any background on the situation, but he made a judgment, and so anyway, I think it was resolved, right? But
totally,
yeah.
But yeah, it's a great example of in the moment, our minds are programmed to think what we're used to thinking. What's the average and what's our experience? And then you realize, or hopefully at some point you realize, oh, that average or what I'm used to being true isn't necessarily always the case or always true.
Yep. Got it.
So I think that brings us up to number 4 for you.
Yep, my number 4 is fake it till you make it.
That's good.
And I learned this, it really became clear when I started getting into public speaking. And
Explains
I really
everything.
learned, one of my, what's that?
It explains everything.
I know, you really don't know what you're talking about, right? No, because I really crystallized the idea in my own mind that nobody knows that you screwed up except for you.
Yep.
The audience, nobody knows that, you did something wrong unless you let on to it. And so just pretend like you know what you're doing.
Yeah, totally.
That's where a lot of my confidence comes from in public speaking, because I do prepare, and but if I screw up, I'm like, no one's gonna even know, so I put on my brave face.
That's awesome, and that's actually a phrase that I use all the time in my day job. Talking to people about our culture and our expectations. One of the things we have in our guideline is demonstrate a positive attitude at all times. And at some point, typically I'll say, of course you're going to have a bad day. Things are going to go wrong. Our responsibility is to never show that, is to demonstrate a positive attitude. So fake it till you make it. Pretend. And eventually it'll catch up with you. But you gotta fake it till you make it. That's just the way it works.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how you feel as long as you don't let anyone else know. Like,
Exactly.
right? Like,
Yeah.
display that positive attitude even if you're not quite feeling positive at that moment.
Totally. That's good.
All right, number 5 for you.
This one I haven't quite got it down, but I value the principle. It's enjoy the moments by being present.
Ooh, I like it.
This is, especially in our culture, in our day and age, we're always behind a cell phone. We're taking pictures, we're Instagramming, we're doing live this, live that. And, a couple of years ago, I was huge on the whole live broadcast movement, and I was trying to do Periscope, and, I was always turning the camera on. And I realized, yeah, it's cool and it feels good to get people to watch you and get the accolades and stuff. But when I look back, my perspective is always behind a cell phone. Like, that's not the view of my life that I want. So there are pieces of me that wishes I would have taken more pictures or wishes I would have done this or done that. But I also got to remember, you know what? I was present with those friends or with that family member, and we had a great time. I wasn't distracted by all that stuff that seems to be so important in our culture today. And again, I'm still working through that, and I'm not perfect, but I'm constantly reminding myself that it's up to me to be present and enjoy the moment.
Yes, I like it. And again, I think that's something that everybody can relate to as well. Good stuff.
Okay, you're up.
My number 5 that I just thought of a little while ago is fireflies are underappreciated. That's my number 5 revelation. So you laugh because you live on the West Coast, dude. And you don't have fireflies over there.
Nope.
But when they come out every summer, it's freaking magic, dude. There's little flashes of light that like hover through the air. Oh my God, it's so crazy. And you put one in your hand and it's like lighting up in your hand. Excuse me, dude, like how do you do that? It's pretty amazing. I remember the first time I'm serious. This is so serious, dude. This is like my number. I'm going to move it up a little bit. I think it's no longer number 5.
Okay. I'm just, is there a point? Like, are you going to turn this into some life philosophical thing? Or?
No,
it's
absolutely not.
Literally just,
fireflies
okay.
are underappreciated.
Yep.
That's my soapbox.
Yep. I can't argue. There's another side to the story, and I have to respect that.
Wait, all right, Sean, tell me the last time you saw a firefly.
Oh, geez. Maybe at Woodstock?
Oh, yeah, in
Maybe?
Indiana. Yeah. But I just remember seeing him for the first time, and it's not like I was young, because I'd never been to the East Coast. I honestly want to say the first time I saw one was Ram.
Oh,
2010. Wow. And it blew my mind. Like, I feel like I obviously seen them in movies and, like, read about them, whatever, but to see it in person, holy cow, man.
I am so thankful that you've been so moved by fireflies.
There we go.
Well, thanks for sharing.
So does that sort of erase all the like serious stuff we talked?
No, not at all. I think it's valuable and it's true. There's some of the things you learn may be absolutely pointless. I don't know. A life lesson that I think of in this moment, you gotta appreciate the small things.
There you go.
And I'm not calling them small or your appreciation small, but maybe it is. And you just if you're living a life of gratitude, then you're gonna appreciate things like that. So there's certainly something to be said there.
You know what? Maybe that's what I should couple my fireflies with. And that's my entire number 5, like appreciate the small stuff.
Such
like
as
firefly. Yeah, exactly.
Wonderful. I like it. Well, Kyle and I didn't talk about this, but we'll both continue, and I'm challenging Kyle to continue with me, jotting things down. And it might be kind of fun if we have an episode like this or recording like this every few months or every time period we want. We just get on and talk about some of the things we're learning. I've actually learned, I'm sure, a dozen things, if not more, from our guest. So maybe there's something brewing here that maybe we can bring up again down the road.
Yep, I agree. I like it. Good stuff. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. Find us online at twodisableddudes.com. And please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts.
We'd like to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our audio producer, Jake Tompkins, who also composed the music.
Until next time, keep living with urgency.